Hey y'all, how you doing? How you feeling? How's your day been? I'm Takara and this is my husband.
Kylan was good, y'all.
And today we are talking about transitions, like the transition from single life to married life, or from, you know, no kids, kids, parenthood. Things like that. So there's always a shift in titles,
Yeah.
roles, maybe expectations. I don't know.
Ooh.
That's always a tough
Wow.
word. So responsibilities might be a better word than expectations.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's because
Wow.
can't expect, but also you are responsible to do certain things and certain roles. And I I don't know. I have a good question I think to start it off for you, hubby.
Oh boy.
Is why do you think that some people stay single instead of getting married?
Wow. Okay.
I just threw that at him.
That's definitely a loaded topic for sure.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there are numerous multitudes of reasons that people can come up with in their head. Most that they rationalize themselves, either coming from a place of insecurity, lack of knowledge, or perceived notions, um, generational patterns that they've witnessed throughout their lives, never having a positive example of what a relationship, a healthy relationship, can look like to really understand why it would even be something that's desirable. Because I
Yeah.
feel like, especially now, with way things have progressed with social media and just the culture surrounding relationships, I feel like it's so heavily saturated right now in media.
Hmm.
Everybody's talking about relationships. Everybody has opinions about relationships, examples of what they want, what they don't want, all of these little catchy little quips and titles that you see with the little clickbait titles all over Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all of these other little social medias going on. It's all over the place. There are dating shows popping up all over the place, and so many of them are not realistic.
Hmm.
There isn't a realistic depiction of what a genuine, healthy, authentic relationship looks like, which
Hmm.
honestly was one of the reasons that I personally felt so strongly about what we're doing with mutual intentional love.
Yeah.
Like that was the one of the goals in creating the vision, in bringing forth a representation that's largely passed over and misrepresented in media
Hmm.
right now. You don't get to really see too much of that. In television, in movies, there's always so many negative depictions of what relationships are, of what they can be,
Yeah.
which is true. These things do exist. All of these things do happen. It's not really monolithic. You don't have just one type of relationship.
Right.
So there are things going on within people's relationships. There is cheating and scandals and all manner of salacious activities going on in some people's lives, for sure. But it's not the full picture. And I feel like, especially with black couples, especially, we don't really get to see that beautiful, genuine love, you know?
Yeah. That's why everybody's so excited about that new Netflix special, Forever,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
just sadly
Something
rare to
different.
see.
We don't
And
we don't really get to see that side of our life,
right.
you know? And it's something that's needed. It's
Yeah.
really needed because right now it's such a polarizing topic right now for us. Everybody's talking about men versus women, trying to divide the two, and then there are all these different layers and nuances going on that is really meaningless. You know,
Mm-hmm.
should people go 50-50? Should one person handle all the finances?
Mm.
Should men lead everything in a household? What are the gender roles within relationships? Do men need women? Do women need men? Whatever it is that's the case,
Yeah.
the core part about it is the genuine representation of what a relationship can be that's lacking. It's become something that everybody is latching on to where they can say, "Oh, you should never want to get married. You should stay single forever because you attach everything to another person. This other person now has access to your everything,
Mm.
your time, your your finances, your mind, everything that makes you you is now attached to another person. So there's a layer of selflessness that
Mm.
you have to have in order to enter into a relationship. And humans are inherently selfish by nature. Many of us go into a place where it's how can this benefit me the most? That's generally the mindset. They're seeking something always from all of their interactions. So even that through a relationship, it could be they're trying to gain something from the relationship. For some people, it's companionship. For some people, it's very simply it's advantageous for them to change their situation. They're trying to reach a different place in life. They want to have more money or travel to a new place or obtain a visa. All of these different
Mm.
things that influence their decision to choose whether or not to be single or enter into a relationship.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, what's represented now, love is at the bottom of the list of the reasons for people choosing to be in a relationship. Some people want to be in a relationship because they just don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
They want the appearance of what a relationship has been sold to them, the image of a relationship. They're seeking an image, not a relationship. A relationship is layered.
Hmm.
It's something real that involves real emotions. It
Mm-hmm.
requires self work. It requires you to be realistic with your own expectations of what a relationship is.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times that understanding is not there, which I feel like is one of the reasons why a lot of relationships don't really last very long. Because
Under.
there are so many relationships now that people have, like, numerous relationships that don't work because they either don't know what they want from a relationship to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
or they enter into a relationship with a false perception of what it's going to be, not fully understanding the ramifications of blending your life with another human being.
Hmm.
And that is a very heavy thing. It's weighted. It has a certain level of respect that it should be given that isn't there for most people.
What part?
Just the relationship within itself. That people don't realize truly what a relationship actually is at its core.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's just an image that they've seen on television that they're seeking. They want this glamorous, picture perfect, social media ready vision of what a relationship is
Hmm.
without the actuality of what it is in its totality. And I feel like that pretty much addresses
Yeah,
the question
that was a
mostly.
lot. That you addressed the question in in so many ways. Because I asked it initially because my thought of how once you are in a relationship, how you then, your mindset then, you have to think of somebody else other than yourself.
Yeah.
And so, with asking you, like, why do you think that some people choose to stay single or, not to get married?
Yeah.
It's because it's so much easier to, well, not always, but I do feel like, it would only make
Certain
sense,
aspects.
yeah, that it would be easier to only have to worry about yourself,
Mm-hmm. For sure.
and, you can do what you want when you want, because who else is there
Yeah.
to change your, whatever it is that you
Yeah.
want or need
Exactly.
to do? Like,
Exactly.
the world is yours to do as you please, whereas you're not, like, you don't have the children to take care of,
Yeah.
or anybody else to think of.
You're your only responsibility.
You're your only responsibility.
You're not beholden to anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to shift anything that you would normally be doing. Your mindset doesn't need to change.
Yeah,
Entering into a relationship requires a shift in your mindset.
it does.
Because when you go from being single and your only focus is yourself, your own goals, your own well being, your own desires and needs, when you enter into a relationship, you now have to consider what this other individual needs.
Mm-hmm.
Your mindset has to shift to, oh, well, what would my wife think about this? What will my wife want to do? What now is necessary to where the both of us can be happy? What gives us both peace? Not just solely thinking of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people get deterred by the reality once they actually enter into a relationship, not necessarily knowing ahead of time what it is to expect because they're not taught what to expect. It's not something that's out there easily accessible. It's not as easy to turn on the TV and see, oh, well, this is what to expect when you enter into a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
These are the conversations you may encounter.
Mm-hmm.
These are the very real moments you need to prepare yourself for. Like, nothing prepares you for that.
Right.
Not the education system, not the people around you, because they themselves haven't been taught that. For generations, it hasn't been taught. No one's teaching the next generation how to sustainably move through life in a relationship to have it be
I
at
think
its
that
healthiest.
alone is interesting, because how would you teach it? And then there's the thought of, like, well, who says this is what I want for my life?
Exactly.
So it's like,
It's just the option. The option isn't really there, you
yeah.
know. And I feel like now that especially is one of the voids in which a lot of people are trying to fill,
Mm-hmm.
but don't understand how.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to fill this void that they have in their life. So they're constantly seeking something that they don't even fully understand what it is that they're seeking.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they do have some sort of idea, it's simply just that. They're grasping at straws to feel something
Mm-hmm.
that they never truly are able to reach because one, they don't know what they're reaching for, and then once they have it, they don't know what to do with it. So I feel like that's something that really needs to change, honestly.
Yeah, the question's how.
Yeah. I feel like this is a good first step.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like creating platforms like this to where these conversations can be had. They are accessible. It is a resource that's available to people now to go and look this up so they can see an idea of what it actually is instead of, we're not selling some sort of picture perfect ideal scenario. We're not selling some sort of pipe dream that is unattainable. We're just regular people
Mhm.
that happen to fall in love in a beautiful
Mhm.
way
Mhm.
and are tremendously blessed with an understanding of what it is that we wanted. And it meshed, it aligned in such a way that allowed us to develop into this beautiful mutual intentional love that we're sharing with you all now. To try and create something that's lasting and impactful, not just to keep this bliss that we have. We would like everyone to be able to achieve whatever
Definitely.
version of that looks like in their own lives. If we can share even a bit of what it is that we know that could potentially help someone else and improve their lives and make them happier, be more at peace, that's the goal. We want to do that.
Mhm.
So I feel like that it's been really beautiful being able to
Mhm.
take these important first steps into building something beautiful for the world.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
What about parenthood? What do
Yeah,
you? How would you explain that transition?
I would say that transition is definitely comes with its own layers that honestly I feel like are at times easier than just a relationship. Like
Like,
once you kick into
hmm.
that mindset, that parental feeling, it's something inherent that can be within you.
Yeah.
You learn as you go. The goal is not perfection.
Mhm.
The goal is to be present as a parent,
Mhm.
not to be perfect as a parent. There's no such thing as a perfect parent. So I feel like the transition from having no children to having a child, there is that shift in mindset. You need to be more focused. You need to be more mindful of not only what's going on around you, your environment that you're creating for this new life, but also of yourself and figure out what it is that you need to do to be the best version of yourself because that is a bigger factor in most cases than being in a relationship. A lot of people they'll want to be better for a relationship, but they don't necessarily try all that hard to be their best self.
Hmm.
They'll say something, your partner or spouse will say something to you and that'll make you realize, oh, I didn't know that was an issue, but okay, sure, I'll work on that. And honestly, it's usually a lot of lip service. There's not much action that goes behind it to actually making those changes, to
Yeah.
wanting to change. That desire to change is often not there. But with a child, it's something about that creating this life and caring for this life that you now have this drive, this passion to be your best version, to do everything humanly possible to be the best version of yourself for them so that they can look at you and be proud.
Oh, I
I
love
feel
that,
like
and that is
that's the
interesting.
shift.
That I get what you're saying. That makes a lot of sense as far as how it can seem easier as far as parenting compared to, and I don't know what the word would be for that other than being in a relationship.
Yeah,
but
for
but
sure.
that's an interesting way to also attempt to shift your mindset
Mm-hmm.
if you are a parent
Yeah,
and you can relate to that feeling or understanding like, yeah, I can see how that makes sense, then using that same I guess motivation of
yeah,
being your best for your child, be the best for yourself to then be the best for your significant other.
because honestly, that's a key piece that's missed. Creating the best environment for your child, and if you're with the child's parent, that involves being the best spouse that you can be to your partner, because that is their parent as well.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever that dynamic looks like, it creates the pattern, it creates the foundation to what they look to as a child throughout life. They're looking at their parents
Mm-hmm.
to really guide them and give them a blueprint for what to expect out of life, what a healthy relationship looks like, what a loving home looks like,
Mm-hmm.
and how to navigate these different layers and different events that occur throughout life.
Yeah. It can feel like a lot. It can feel like, pressure. Like
Yeah, for sure.
like, just
Yeah,
be on your A game,
yeah,
And because at least I know I want to be the best example for them as well.
yeah,
And yeah, because as you were saying that, like I was thinking, like, yeah, like what is it that they would see right now? Our oldest definitely. I think what she's able to see is our way of how we communicate with each other,
yeah, for
and
sure.
that's amazing. And then with the babies, they're babies, so they're not even paying attention to anything just yet. And
Yeah,
so I was just thinking about, like, in the future, like what we can do to show them how we love each other, and
yeah,
something outside of just the communication.
yeah.
And
I feel like that aspect of what you were just saying,
mm-hmm.
whereas they are babies, but the beauty about that is you already were able to see how the energy in the home affects them. Like, because a lot of times people don't realize that small children, even babies and toddlers, can feel what's going on
Well,
around them.
definitely.
Even if they don't have the full understanding of what's happening and they're not able to articulate what's
Mm-hmm.
going on, they can feel it.
Yeah,
And it's beautiful to see the joy on our children's faces.
that's true.
They're free to be children,
Right,
be
that's very
happy,
true.
and understand that they're safe and in a loving environment to where they can explore, they can
Mm-hmm.
be happy, they can do all of these things and know that their parents are there for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's something that has been so beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So beautiful, man.
Oh,
Because
I agree. Yeah.
like you can see that pure, genuine joy
Yeah.
on their faces. Those sweet smiles, like they wake up and they're happy to be where they are.
Yeah.
Like that's amazing.
It really is. Yeah.
Like that's reassurance and very comforting. That lets
Absolutely.
you know that you're doing something right.
Right.
And
that's
really
the present time, which is where we should be mentally. Like,
yeah.
you really should just be
Be
in the present, because life is just so fragile, and that's all you truly have is the present.
Yeah.
And the past is over, and the future's not promised. So that's why stay in the present. However, I wasn't initially with what I was saying. I was in the future, because I was saying, like, because they're just little babies and they're not really paying attention. But that's so true. They absolutely do feel the energy that they are surrounded by. But if speaking of the future, I was just thinking, like, us, like, having like a date night, and in my mind, just like, just all the responsibilities of life, and time. That was where I was just trying to connect how and why I was talking about the pressure of being that good example, and just the roles, and transitioning into those roles, trying to, like, bring it full circle. But I do love where it ended up going, and being able to reflect on that beautiful piece of truth.
Yeah.
Because our babies are so sweet and happy and smiley, and it is a beautiful thing, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah, for sure. But to your other point, I would say not to get caught up in
The pressure.
the pressure and the pursuit of perfection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because perfection, as I said earlier, is not the goal. Being a good example is not being a perfect example. Like, be realistic, set realistic expectations, set realistic representations, so they're not seeing this picture perfect fairy tale that's often sold over and over throughout media, whether it's the books they read, the TV shows they watch, the movies they watch, or even in music.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes they're just selling this dream and not the reality. And that's something that I would love to make sure that we always remain rooted in the reality of it, so they
Mm-hmm.
can have a full and clear understanding of what to expect from life.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to be prepared. I don't want them to have any sort of false sense of perception. I don't
Yeah.
want them to be out here thinking that life is one way, and then when they realize it's not, their entire worldview is rocked.
Well, what are you saying, or what did you say? Because did I miss it as to like how? Because we are rare, I feel, and
For
it
sure.
is our only hope that they would be able to have somebody that's gonna treat them as they deserve to be treated. And
Absolutely.
but with you saying that, like, you don't want to give a false, like,
A false
uh
perception
yeah, false
of what it
perception.
is.
What
Because
by
by that I mean it's like people will have to say, if things are all fine and good, that means things are perfect. There's no room for reality imperfection. So they'll
yeah,
think that, oh, this is a wonderful, beautiful, smiling couple, that no disagreements exist. That's not
right,
reality.
yeah,
You have to be able to learn all aspects of what you can encounter and know how to deal with them properly
yeah. I guess
when
that
you do reach these points.
yeah, I guess I just was thinking how, like, we don't have a way of showing them. That's really one of the benefits. How, they say, like,
Yeah,
no screen time and blah blah blah. Like, maybe sure, but as you age, I feel like that was one of the benefits of TV, is because as you watch whatever it is you're watching with your children, if you pause and actually talk about what's going on, like, that's one way that they can see, like, if it's something as terrible as, like, domestic violence, like,
yeah,
we're not going to show them that,
yeah.
so, and I would hate for that to ever be the
Mm-hmm.
reality, but this sometimes is reality.
Yeah,
We can hope and pray that it's never theirs.
exactly. But that's the thing, that they have to be prepared and understand that these things do exist, because once it is they're old enough to reach a point where they start entering the world, they enter the school system,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to encounter these other individuals who have these families, who live some of these lives. These things that they aren't exposed to within the home, they're now going to have a front row seat to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're going to have conversations with various other people. And I just want them to be prepared for some of the conversations and some of the encounters they could have.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like a lot of times it's the lack of knowledge that's so dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can be over prepared. Honestly, there's such a thing as being over prepared. But honestly, I don't necessarily feel like being over prepared is within itself a practical statement. I feel like there's a different understanding of it that comes with it. Like, you can take things to an extreme, but you can never be too prepared for a situation.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal isn't to have them just like bombarded with this information to where it's overbearing and all encompassing.
Yeah.
It's just making sure the awareness is there
Right.
so that they can be as prepared as possible to navigate life in the most comfortable, peaceful, and positive way possible.
Yeah. It's good then.
Yeah.
So hopefully, you as our audience are able to gain something from this conversation as far as,
Yeah.
you know, what to think about when entering into a relationship.
Yeah. Are you
Or if you're,
prepared for that?
yes, are you prepared? If you're in it, like just being more aware of your mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I feel like those are very good things to be mindful of.
Mm-hmm.
Have that awareness at all times of who you are, who you want to be, and who you need to be for yourself and the people around you. And most importantly, your loved ones.
Yeah.
So I think that just about wraps things up here.
Yep.
So as always, everybody, thank you for sticking with us to the end. We appreciate you joining us and having these insightful conversations. And we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. So as always, stay well and prosper, everybody. Peace.
Thank y'all for making it to the end.
And as always, much appreciation for all your support.
If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, and comment
Across all platforms.